Yeah, so before we begin, just a disclaimer, this session is for educational and self-reflected purpose only. It's not a substitute for a medical or psychological treatment. While I am an advanced level 3 internal family system practitioner with extensive experience in trauma and care, but I'm not a licensed physiotherapist or psychotherapist. Please consult a licensed mental professional for diagnosis, treatment, or therapeutic support if needed be. Okay, with that, let's go. So let's begin by simply arriving here and within. Find a position that feels steady and supported. Let your body begin to settle and your shoulders drop. And if it feels safe, let your eyes close or soften your gaze. And take a slow, deep breath in and a longer, quieter breath out. Slow, full breath in and a longer, deeper, quieter breath out. And let your body hear you're safe to notice. Now gently bring your awareness inward, noticing without judgment what stirs as you imagine facing a mirror. Is there warmth? Is there tightness? Is there rejection? Is there hesitation? Whatever arises, let it be there. Nothing to push away. And if it feels right, place a hand on your chest or your belly and say softly to yourself, even if I have turned away from myself, I'm still here. Again, even if I have turned away from myself, I'm still here. And let your breath soften what feels tense and make space for even a hint of kindness to enter in. And we'll begin from this place of quiet noticing and gently explore what wants to be seen with new eyes today. So it's really wonderful for me to be here. This is a 145th session together. And today we will turn toward the theme that quietly affects so many people who survive trauma. Yet often it is carried in silence. The experience of meeting ourselves in the mirror and feeling shame, discomfort, or even rejection. And in this session, we'll start by gently exploring how trauma shapes self-image, how overwhelming or painful experiences distort the way you see your body, or your self-worth, or your identity. And then we'll focus on the path from shadows to compassion, how the parts of you that feel banished or judged can be met with understanding rather than fear. And always, you don't need to know or prepare anything. I'll guide you step by step as we move inwards together using IFS. We'll follow, if time permits, with a gentle sounding, and then open up space for your reflection or questions. So just take a slow breath and begin with your full presence. Now, how does trauma shape self-image? Trauma makes the body feel unsafe, so the mirror becomes unsafe too. When something overwhelming happens, especially in childhood, the body becomes a place where the memory lives. And for many survivors, looking in the mirror doesn't mean seeing a face. It means facing a body that once carried fear, violation, or helplessness. For example, if a woman grew up with a childhood of physical or emotional abuse, may not consciously remember every detail, but the body remembers. When she sees a reflection, she may suddenly feel wronged or ashamed, not because she is wrong, but because the body became the container of what was done to her. And the shame she sees in the mirror is actually the shame that belongs to the perpetrator. Trauma turns external cruelty into an internal truth. When you have repeatedly been told in childhood things like you are ugly, what's wrong with you, nobody will ever want you, a child doesn't reject the message. The child actually absorbs it. And then years later, the adult looks into the mirror and sees the same insult staring back. Not because not because it's true, but because that message was carved into the nervous system long before the child had power to refuse it. For example, someone who was emotionally bullied at school for being too dark, too skinny, too big, or not good looking may grow into an adult who always feels unattractive, even if others genuinely find them beautiful. The early message becomes the default lens, and the mirror just reflects that lens back to them. Trauma disconnects you from your own reflection. Some survivors describe feeling as though they leave their body during overwhelming experiences. Years later, they look at the mirror and feel numb or blank or disconnected or like they are looking at someone else entirely. It's not vanity and it's not low self-esteem. It's a protective strategy the mind once used to survive and stay alive. Trauma teaches a child to blame themselves. And that self-blame becomes their identity. A child cannot think my parents are cruel or my abuser was wrong. To preserve attachment, the child thinks there must be something wrong with me. I made this happen. I am the reason I was treated like this. And that belief becomes the foundation of self-image. So in adulthood, when the survivor looks in the mirror, they don't see a face. They see the conclusion that their younger self made to survive. I'm defective, I'm unworthy. Example, a man who grew up with a parent who never acknowledged him might see his reflection and feel insignificant or invisible without knowing why. His mind is showing him younger version of himself that felt unseen every single day. Trauma distorts perception. The mirror shows the wound, not the truth. Trauma becomes a lens, a dark filter laid over the eyes. And when the survivor looks at themselves, they are not seeing their real faces. They are seeing the shame of being violated, the wounds of being criticized, the loneliness of being ignored, the fear held in their younger self, and the shame that belonged to the abuser, the cruelty that belonged to the bully, the rejection that belonged to the parent, ends up living inside the survivor's reflection. The self-image becomes a collage of old pain, not the person you are today. Most survivors don't see their updated self. They see the younger ones, hurting versions of themselves, the one who was frightened, blamed, or humiliated. This is why even a strong, capable adult might still recoil at their own image. Their mirror shows them the child who suffered, not the adult who survived. And this distortion is not a flaw, it's a protective adaptation. The distorted self-image is not a failure. It's a strategy that once kept you alive. Turning against your body, criticizing your own experiences, or rejecting your reflection was a way to try to control chaos, avoid danger, or make sense of what never should have happened. You're not imagining things. You're not too sensitive. You're not weak. Your mirror shows the imprint of an old pain, and that imprint can change. So how do we move from shadows to compassion? So every survivor of trauma carries a shadow, a part of you that you learn to hide. When overwhelming experiences happened, especially in childhood, certain emotions or traits became unsafe to show. So you push them inside. Sadness, anger, neediness, sensuality, vulnerability, they don't disappear, they move into shadow, waiting for a time when it becomes safe to be seen. For example, a woman who grew up being told, don't cry, don't make noise, may hide all her tenderness and sensitivity. And as an adult, she feels ashamed whenever tear arises. Not because crying is wrong, but because it became forbidden when she was a little girl. After trauma, the shadow becomes filled with shame. Not because you're flawed, but because shame protected you once. So many survivor believes their shadow contains the worst part of them, the part they hate, criticize, or fear. But those parts are often simply the younger version of you who first experienced hurt. They carry the shame, the shock, the fear that your adult self had to leave behind in order to survive. Example, somebody who was humiliated by a parent might hide the part of themselves that wants to be seen. As an adult, they shrink in meetings or avoid photos because being visible still feels dangerous. And what we reject inside becomes louder. The inner critic fights the shadow, trying to control it. Inside many trauma survivors, there is a harsh internal voice that says, don't be weak. You're too much. You're not good enough. The voice isn't evil, it's protective. It believes that if it attacks the shadowed part, it can prevent more pain. An example, a survivor who once needed to be perfect to avoid parents' rage may now have an inner critic that screams anytime they make a small mistake. That critic is terrified of punishment, even decades later. Now, from compassion, these bad parts, and remember there are no bad parts, these bad parts reveal themselves as hurt children, not monsters. When we stop fighting these inner parts, that we call them bad, and instead turns toward them gently, something remarkable starts to happen. The shadow softens, the critic relaxes, the shame begins to dissolve, because the moment a part feels safe, it no longer needs extreme roles. Example, a man who hated insecure part of him because finally paused one day and imagined speaking to that part like a child and said, you are not alone. No wonder you learned to hide because of what happened to you. Within days or weeks, his panic in social situation dropped. Not because he forced confidence, but because his younger self finally felt acknowledged. What we feel, we can heal. Bringing the shadow into awareness is the beginning of change. Shame thrives in secrecy. The moment you name it, this part of me feels unworthy, the power decreases. Simply noticing there's shame here separates you from the shame. For example, a woman who felt ugly for years realized in this kind of work that the shame belonged to the 10-year-old who had been mocked at school. And once she recognized that, the mirror stopped feeling like an enemy. She was seeing the child wound, not the adult woman she had become. So compassion is not a weakness. It is the courage to stop abandoning yourself. So meeting your shadow parts with kindness may feel terrifying, because for many of you, the idea of accepting yourself fully, honestly, wasn't allowed growing up. But compassion doesn't mean approving of what happened. It means finally offering to the younger you what no one else did: warmth, understanding, and belonging. And when compassion replaces judgment, the mirror begins to change. Not because your appearance changes, but because the eyes you use to look at yourself soften. You begin to see not a flawed adult, but a brave survivor who carried burdens that never were theirs. And that is the movement from shadow to compassion to wholeness. And we are going to try it today. Not to figure anything out, but just to open that door. So I invite you to ask yourself this question, which I also sent to everyone before. When you look at your mirror, at yourself today or yesterday, what emotion, sensations, or immediate reaction did you feel in your body? Take a moment to write down if you haven't done already. And let it surface without pressure. And we'll begin from there. Also, I sent to you an image of this table. If you have drawn it or printed it, good. If you haven't, you can also do that. We'll use it in the session afterwards. So take a moment to focus on this. When you look at the mirror yourself, what comes up for you? Keep that image of the table with you, next to you. There's one chair on the left, one chair on the right. And there's you on the head of the table. Okay. So just find a position that feels comfortable, supported. Slow breath in and a longer breath out. Slow breath in and longer breath out. Just do a scan. Go from top of your head up to your toes and notice sensations in your body. So start with your scalp. You don't have to do anything, just observe. Into your face, into your neck, into your shoulders, into your arms and fingers. You're looking for sensation there. Any sensation. Your upper back, your chest area, your lower back, your belly area, your pelvis area, your knees, your feet, and your toes. And let your body know it's safe to be here. Now imagine a calm, light-filled room with a large table in the center, and see yourself seated at the head of the table, steady, kind, curious. And let this be your inner space. And whenever you need to, you can always open your eyes and write down. Think of the situation that came up when you were imagining looking at the mirror at yourself. And see if you can welcome two parts of you that react to that situation. On the left side, invite the inner critic, the voice that compares, shames, or is saying something else but looks like a critic. Just ask it to come and take a seat on the left side of the table, one of the chairs. And then on the right side, invite your inner encourager or compassionate cheerleader, the voice that wants good for you. Let them both know that they are welcome here. Each of them have a seat, and neither needs to take over. And on that day, on that sheet, the paper, take a moment to, if you want, you can write the name or whatever comes up on the left side, on the right side, as you give them the seat there. There may be words that come up. It can be image that shows up. Whatever it is, just identify that and write it on the chair. Left side, the critic, and right side, an encourager, cheerleader. And if there are other parts that want to come and watch, ask them to be in the background. They're welcome to sit further back on the table. Imagine yourself back onto the chair, on the table. Left side, you have an inner critic. Right side, you have a compassionate cheerleader. And see if you can turn your attention towards the left chair. And let this critic step forward just enough to be known. And from your seat, say inwardly, I see you. I'm here. I'm curious to know more about you. And notice how it feels to you as you turn towards the left chair and let it know that you see it and you would like to know more about it. Be curious. And now ask a question to the one on the left. I'm curious to know, what are you trying to do for me when I see myself in the mirror? I'm curious to know, what are you trying to do for me when I see myself in the mirror? And notice what you hear back. Then ask a follow-up question. I'm curious to know, what are you afraid would happen if you didn't point out every flaw that I have? Or if you didn't criticize me? So what are you afraid would happen if you didn't criticize me or point out every flaw? It told you what it was afraid of. Ask it, what is the consequence of that for me? What is that big fear you have from me if you didn't criticize me? The biggest fear you have for me. Told you what is trying to protect you from. So see if you can acknowledge if it makes sense. Just acknowledge. And now ask another question, saying, I'm curious to know, whose rules are you enforcing? Where did you first learn them from? Now ask a question, how old was I when you took on this role, and what was going on at that time in our life? If you sense a younger age or a specific memory, just take note of it with compassion and curiosity only. This critic, no, thank you for trying to protect me from pain or rejection. I'm listening. If it makes sense to you, just nod and say, I get it. And see if you can turn your attention to the right chair and invite the encourager or the compassionate cheerleader to step forward, the one that believes in your worth and that sees you whole. And from your steady seat, you can say, I see you, I'm here, and I like to understand you more. Ask it, I'm curious to know, what do you want most for me when I'm in front of the mirror? What do you most want for me when I am in front of the mirror? Now ask it, I'm curious to know, what are you afraid would happen if you were not supporting me this way? And ask it, what would be the biggest consequence of that for me if you did not support me this way? The biggest fear you have about me if you did not support me this way. But then ask a question, what truths about me do you wish were louder? Then ask it, since how old was I and what was going on in my life since you took on this role of being my cheerleader? See if you can thank this part for its steadiness and care, and let it know I appreciate how you have been trying to balance reality and kindness. And see if you can return to your centered seat at the head of the table. Now invite both parts to look across the table at one another while you host a dialogue. Say inwardly to both of them, you have both worked so hard to protect me, just in different ways. And then ask a question to both of them. What do you both want for me underneath the methods? Turn to the critic and ask what would help you feel 20% safer so you don't have to be so harsh. What do you need me to do so that you can feel 20% safer? And turn to the encourager, the one on the right side, and ask it, what support do you need from me to stay present when I face a mirror? It's to both of them, is there anything either of you want to hand back? Rules, insults, impossible standards, or anything else that doesn't belong to us? If something appears, a phrase, an image, a weight, a sensation in your body, just notice what comes up when you ask them, is there something that they would like to hand back and release? Imagine placing it on the table to be released. Notice where you feel it in your body. And if that feels okay, you can release it into either water or fire or earth or air or light so that it can transform for highest good. Take the time. Now ask a question. Now that we've released some of the burden out, rules out, what qualities would we like to bring in on the table that we may have lost because of all those burdens? So let them bring to you the qualities that should come in. And imagine those qualities entering into every cell of your body and into those two on the chairs, on the right and the left. Let the energy soften and see if you can offer a closing reflection to both of them. And say, when I look in the mirror, I want the truth with kindness. I'll make room for each of you, but I will choose the tone. When I look at the mirror, I want truth with kindness. I will make room for each of you, but I will choose the tone. Feel your feet, your seat beneath you, and just notice any shift. Even 5% softer is real. And when you feel ready, start to open your eyes and be back. And we'll prepare for the tuning forks. Okay, so in case you're new here, so just to remind, we will use tuning forks to do sound work. And basically what we do is we work on the, what is called the, astral body, the biofield, which is like this torus, North Pole, South Pole, so the top of your head, below your feet, and then the field around you goes up to 6 feet around. And what we do is we open the channel, top of the head, from bottom of the feet, so that this central channel gets opened with tuning fork. And then we go into one of the different chakras, if you know what is chakra, one of the energy centers. using a pendulum to know which one to go to because of what you have been dealing with today, the subject of today. And then we'll start from the edge. The edge is where basically is a point of your conception. This is a timeline of your life. And also there is a past life from your father and mother side on just on your side as well. But on the edge is when you were conceived. And then as you go in, basically it's your timeline till present moment. So as I will go with the tuning fork changes its tone. If there is something to resolve, I will tell you what comes up for me. And if it makes sense for you, which sometimes it does, you are going to do a couple of things. One is you're going to breathe in a specific way. So that's a breath to do. So breathing through your nose, fill up your chest, and then breathe out from your mouth forcefully. You do when I tell you to do, otherwise you'll hyperventilate. And the other thing is sometime if it's very strong, the emotional aspect, then you can also do something like ha, and you release. And I will see it and I will tell you, okay? So my camera will be off, but you will hear me and you will of course hear the tuning fork, okay? Here we go. So we start from below the feet, then go top of the head, then run a pendulum, and then go into the field, whichever chakra comes up, okay? Here we go. Okay, so we are going to start on the below the feet, and I'm going to use 144 hertz tuning fork. So I'm just below your feet, pointing towards your backbone to open the channel. Okay, so take a breath. Okay, basically grounded you. So now I'll do from top of the head, same thing. Open the channel from top of the head through the backbone into the feet. Okay, so take a breath. Okay, so we open the channel below the feet, top of your head. I'm running a pendulum so you don't hear anything. But I start from the root chakra, the first center, and then go up. And depending on where today needs to be resolved, it'll tell me. Okay, so it's coming to the heart center. And on the right side. Okay. Yeah, it's not running on the left side, it wants to run on the heart right side. What we call father side or masculine side. Okay, so the right side of the heart It's saying yes when we mean to say no, over accommodating, and unable to get to your what you want for yourself. So it's like you caretaking others, and you don't care for yourself basically. So you compensate caring for others, and you say yes when you actually want to say no. So that can be in many circumstances. Okay, so we will start at the edge. And I'm changing the tuning fork as well. So it's going to be 175, so 174 hertz. And the edge is where is the point of conception. Okay, so this is where we'll do. So when you were conceived. So here we go. So I'm 6 feet on the right side of your heart, chest area. Yeah, there's immediate pressure. So it feels like, so this is the point of conception. This is father's side. It's a heaviness. So the heaviness can be some form of grief or sadness, which is not yours, but picked up from your father. But you thought it is yours, and you carried it as if it's yours. Yeah. So see if that makes sense for you. If it does, take a deep breath in. And see if you can tell to that little being which is just coming to life, and let him or her know that sadness we carry was not ours. So it doesn't have to carry it anymore. That heaviness. There's a lot of heaviness. It's not of, it's coming from the father. Or could be mother if the mother is head of the family, father-like. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that got released. Okay, so there is still heaviness. So 3 months before birth, it's still mother's womb. Still a lot of heaviness in the chest and the heart. It feels like weight. Again, not hers or him, or his, I mean, not of the little baby. This comes from outside. Maybe from the mother or the surrounding. Sometimes there is a sadness or heaviness in the surrounding. that's taken by the mother that gets transmitted to the baby. If that's the case, just take a deep breath in. That helped. Okay, so it's now 14 years old. Let's skip the birth. It was say to 14 years old, and is having a lot of anxiety, fear, anxiety, extreme. 14, 15-year-old. So if that makes sense, just take a breath. Whatever it is. Okay, so now it's in the father zone, so it's in the ancestor. It's the river of father side, so the ancestors and father side story, and there's heaviness there, but it's talking about the pain of your father as a child that you may have seen or not. But this is your father as a kid, having a lot of heaviness in his heart. And you carry it for your father. One more time. Okay, so now I'm on top of your chest, heart, and whatever came up, we're going to release it out. Okay, I'm just going to start to close. So the process continues for 72 hours. Now we'll close with the 528 Hertz cocoon. See if you can feel your breath again, soft and steady, and notice what present inside of you. Maybe something feels lighter, maybe something still feels tender. Both are welcome. Now bring to mind the part of you that did struggle with the mirror, the one who learned to hide, shrink or brace, one who carried shame to protect you. Let that part hear these words gently and sincerely. You were seen today. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. I'm here now, with you, not against you. If you feel comforting, place a hand on your heart or your belly area and offer the kindness you always deserved. And now offer yourself these quiet truths. The reflection I feared was never the whole of me. What I carry forward is mine, not what was put on me. I'm allowed to see myself with softer eyes. I'm becoming the one who meets my own gaze with compassion. Let these words settle in your body with warmth. And when you feel ready, take one deep breath in and slowly come back into the room, carrying with you simple knowing a new way of seeing yourself has already begun. Welcome back.